The experience is that bigger picture that can truly set your business apart from the competition. The difference between word of mouth and public criticism or the demise of your company if you get it wrong. One experience can cost you a customer for life. We cannot afford to have one bad experience with our customers. I know that sounds harsh. I know that seems like a lot of pressure, but I do believe today it's true. When our customer standards are high, they're one click away, one meal away, one visit away, one call away, one email away, one service experience away, one delay away from never coming back. Imagine losing a customer forever, not because your product failed, not because your prices were too high, but because one single interaction left that person feeling undervalued, ignored, or disrespected. Now, multiply that by hundreds or even thousands of customers. In today's competitive market, can your business afford that risk? Welcome to the MindShift Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Evans, and today I really want to tackle a critical issue in the world of business that could make or break your business, and that is the power of the customer's experience. Whether you're a business owner listening to this or someone in leadership who can affect this in your company, this episode is really important for you. Before we dive in, let me set some context around the distinction between customer service and customer experience, where customer service we know of as support and assistance provided to customers. Today, though, I want to go deeper and I want to get into the customer experience, which, in my opinion, encompasses every interaction a customer has with your brand from the first time they become aware of your company to the post-sale experience, all the way through how your customers engage with your business, your team, and the impressions they form along the way. While customer service is a crucial part of every business, and a lot of people focus on it and will say that customer service matters, the experience is that bigger picture that can truly set your business apart from the competition. So today, I want to share with you 6 real life experiences that I think will help change in some way the way you think about customer experiences. 3 of these stories are going to showcase exceptional situations where they created what I would call a lifelong customer in me. The other 3, well, they're actually terrible stories of how they made missteps along the way and lost a customer for life. And I will never go back. I've tried to pick 6 stories that have actually happened over the last 60 days that I hope you can resonate with one of these stories as it might appeal to your business. As a 34-year entrepreneur who's owned 6 companies and currently owns a digital marketing agency that helps service businesses, local and national, B2B, B2C, and we've helped well over 1,000, whether it was on our agency or teaching, coaching, and consulting, and helped them do over $300 million in revenue online. Believe me, I've seen firsthand how critical customer experience is. These recent experiences, though, really drove the point home. And because I found myself talking to so many other people about these experiences, both the good ones and the bad ones, I realized I needed to share this with you today. So let's jump in. Let's jump to the positive ones first. So a few months ago, we moved to and bought a new home. And we hired a moving company. And I'll be honest, at the front end of the transaction, I had been referred to this company. And the sales process and the communication process with the firm was leaving me questionable, almost to the point where I almost canceled the company and went with a competitor who I'd also gotten a relatively competitive quote. It was a little bit higher, but it was competitive. But I was so concerned by the level of communication on the front. It was broken. It was detached. It was, text messages, and it just left me feeling, are they actually going to show up? But let me tell you, to my surprise, they over-delivered in such a major way. On moving day, they showed up and just showed out. They brought more people than I expected. They didn't charge me extra. They showed up with intentionality to make sure this was one of the best moving experiences of my life. And they're out outstanding performance has left an impression on me, I guarantee, for life. I will always refer them. And it wouldn't take me a second to hire them again. Now, the caveat is I'd love to see them improve their communication, but I would refer them in a heartbeat because they completely over delivered for the price. Next, my birthday was shortly after. And my wife and I, we go to dinner at this this restaurant we had not been to before. And as wine lovers, we were offered, they didn't know that, but they offered us this special wine tasting experience. It really wasn't a wine tasting where you just sip a little bit of a bunch of wines. It was it was like a tasting of 7, but then you could choose the ones you wanted more of. So it wasn't limiting. It was just an unlimited experience. And it was fantastic. Now, as wine lovers, we were like, we can't resist. So in this time, the restaurant is busy. And our server, initially greeted us. And before we even got into the wine experience, he was our server for dinner. And let me tell you, the restaurant was busy. He had other tables and he cared for us like we were the only guests in the entire restaurant. And he had other tables to take care of. He provided great detail. He provided the histories of the wines, the flavor profiles. And we kind of watched other servers in this very high-end restaurant. And it didn't appear, now we weren't at the other tables, but it didn't appear that those servers had the same intentionality to make their clients' experience well. It could have been. It's just that from our perspective, it didn't appear they were spending nearly as much time at those tables to serve those guests. And so that experience for us we felt like he was so intentional about making sure that we had such a great experience that we actually asked for his name so that when we come back, we don't even want to try anybody else. He will get our business once again. The next, our third great experience was recently at a Chick-fil-A. My mom and I traveled to Texas to see my sons and grandkids, her grandkids and great grandkids. And we were on a bit of a road trip for about 2.5 hours out to where they live after we get off the airport in San Antonio. And we stopped at a quick Chick-fil-A just to grab a quick bite as we got on the way. Now, I have been to Chick-fil-A a number of times, but I typically go through the drive-thru and picking it up here and there. We don't eat there all that much, but we decided to dine in. And I noticed something very interesting, and that was from the beginning of our interaction at the counter, the team member at the counter, we'd asked a couple questions about the menu because we were there right around breakfast time, and I'd never eaten their breakfast sandwiches, so I had a couple questions. It turned out we were beyond the breakfast time. But on every time we said thank you to the server, she replied with "my pleasure." We went and sat down and got our food, and the person who brought the food to the table gave us our food. We said thank you. They said, "My pleasure." The person later, someone comes by through the lobby, and we were finished with our meal, and they asked to take our tray and asked how things were, and we said, "Sure, thank you." We were met with, once again, "My pleasure." Later, I'd find out that this is intentional and cultural to how they believe in the customer experience. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been to plenty of fast food restaurants, and I worked at one many, many years ago. And I will say that I'm thankful to the training I received back at Taco Bell many, many years ago, where we had a very similar philosophy of treating the customer with the utmost respect. But I don't know about you, but if you've been to some of these restaurants, it seems like you're bothering the servers and the team that works in that restaurant for being there in the first place. Like, they just want to get you in and get you out as fast as possible. Let me be clear. I'm not arguing for who makes the best chicken, but I will go back. Now, let's pivot to a couple of not so great experiences, which is really what I want to drive the point home with, or some of these points home with. Recently, we were at a restaurant. I'm a foodie, by the way, if you haven't heard that before. We love to eat out, and it's just an enjoyable time to capture experiences with family and friends, and taking a great meal that someone else has prepared, and just talk and conversate and take photos and keep them in your album. It's like my storyline of kind of how I like to live. Some people love cars and watches and jewelry. I love experiences. Anyway, we're at this one restaurant, though, and the service was just horrible. I won't even get into it because I mean, we've all had horrible service experiences, but here was the tipping point. The food was just mediocre. So now I got mediocre food and horrible service. And I leave the restaurant, and my comment was, and I've made this plenty of times, that I never have to go back. And it's a shame because this company, this business, just it didn't appear that the atmosphere was one of warmth and one of concern to the customer's experience. And of course, we got what I think the atmosphere provided. And it's a shame because we just moved into the area. And of course, we're testing restaurants in the area because we're into a new city. And we are trying to figure out where are our spots, like where are our spots. And they had an opportunity to capture our business for a long period of time. And they blew it. Next up, bad experience. We just moved in this house. As I've said, we call out the air conditioning company. Our house is only about 4 years old, but we are in Las Vegas. And let me tell you, this heat wave this summer has been absolutely incredible. And so the idea of not knowing exactly, sure, we had the home inspection the whole bit. I was in real estate for 17 years. We did all the normal stuff, but we're in the middle of this heat wave and we've got these new electronic thermostats. So I'm like, hey, let's call this company out here, the one who installed it, and let's have it checked out just to get a checkup. So we pay whatever, $180 to get them to come out. The service person was great, super nice, showed up on time. Everything was going beautiful until he finishes the inspection about an hour, hour and a half later, and proceeds to tell me that one of the parts on the AC unit is starting to fail. And in the process, shows me these readings on this device as if I know what they mean, and then claims that it's a good idea that we replace it now so that it doesn't break in the future. Because if it breaks, it's actually not covered under the 10-year warranty from the manufacturer of the air conditioning unit, which I immediately was like, huh? And so he proceeds to argue his point, not argue it, but he proceeds to try to convince me that the 10-year warranty doesn't transfer to a new owner. It's only good for the owner who bought the machine in the first place. Now, it went bad and downhill from there, let me tell you, because I said, well, we're not going to do that part today. By the way, I think he quoted me something like $1,600 to $2,000 for this part, whatever it was. I'm like, well, we're not going to do that today. He had to go outside to finish up some stuff and get ready to wrap it up. And I Googled, of course, because I've been around real estate for a long time. Doesn't make me an air conditioning specialist. I've had clients in our agency that are in the air conditioning space. That, again, does not make me an air conditioning specialist. But it just didn't make sense. So I Googled real quickly because what he said just sounded fishy. And I'm thinking, we were off to a good start. And in one Google search, first of all, in one sentence, which was just unnecessary, you blew it. And we will never call you again. You could have gotten our business for the rest of the time we own this home. You installed the unit. You should be the one to come out and service it. And now, unfortunately, we'll find somebody else because you flat out lied. My final story has to do with really two incidences in one. No one likes to go in your car and have your car not start. One day my car doesn't start and I have to get it towed. So I call roadside assistance for the insurance carrier that I've been using for more than a decade. Well, more than a decade. I've never had a claim. I've never had a problem. I've never called them for anything other than they get my EFT every single month and raise the rate when they deem it necessary. I don't know if you know what that looks like. And I get the roadside assistance to pick up the car. They're supposed to be there in 90 minutes to 120 minutes. So hour and a half to 2 hours. 2 hours pass, nobody's there. I get a text message that the person's 20 minutes away. 20 minutes pass, nobody's there. I call and they say, oh, yeah, he's supposed to be right there. You're his next pickup. I'm like, I wait another 20, 30 minutes. He's not here. Needless to say, the truck never shows up. I'm stranded. Got nothing to do. Got to make arrangements and move on. I call back the auto insurance roadside place. They cancel the order, set me up I say, can you get the car the next day? They're like, yes. This was a Saturday. They're saying they now can come on Sunday. The person schedules it for Monday, not Sunday. So I'm back over where the stranded car is because I have to travel back to where the car is. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Nobody shows up. I call and they're like, oh, we're not even open. I get this answering service. We're not even open right now. I'm like, what? Well, why would I be set up for a service on a day when you're not even open? Like, oh, in the computer, they put down that it was scheduled for the next day, which is a Monday. First breakdown is Saturday. They failed. Sunday, I asked if the car be picked up. They're like, yes, but they scheduled it on Monday because in their mind, they don't do business on Sunday. So this person scheduled it for their next business day, which was Monday. Oh my gosh, you guys. How do you end? It's one simple issue of logistics, not failed once, but failed twice in the same weekend. And I've used your company for a decade. Needless to say, obviously, I don't cancel the insurance in the moment, but I begin the search to find another company, and especially another roadside assistance company. So you might be saying, okay, Darrell, listen, this isn't a new topic. Customer service, customer experience is not a new topic, but let me tell you something. We're in a different time right now. We're in a time where just not long ago, we had a situation called COVID. And COVID has changed and disrupted how we think as consumers, right? Not many of us now are going to sit in restaurants. Restaurants are empty, not because they're not as busy, but because people want takeout. People want to have Uber Eats and people want to have the stuff brought to them. We're in 2024. People want more. They want it faster. They want it cheaper. And they have countless choices at their fingertips. And some of us as business owners or as employees in businesses are allowing our service process, our experience to the customer, we're taking it for granted. And we are putting our businesses and our revenue and our careers and our salaries at risk. Listen, the stakes have never been higher, in my opinion. Okay, let's look at some data to make these points a little bit more clear for you, right? A study from American Express found that 33% of customers are willing to make a switch in companies they use after one single instance of poor service. According to Salesforce, 80% of customers say that the experience a customer provides is as important as its products or services. Bain and Company, one of the largest consulting firms, research firms, shows that increasing customer retention rates by 5% can increase profits in a business by 25 to 95%. And a report from PwC highlights that 73% of consumers say a good experience is key in influencing brand loyalty. Listen, these numbers paint a clear picture outside of my stories, and I'm sure the stories that you have in your own mind. You simply can't afford to deliver poor customer service and, even worse, a poor customer experience, because one experience can cost you a customer for life. So what can you do about this? Listen, it's important for us to think about what we can do in our businesses to ensure that we're delivering the kind of service and the experience that we would want our customers to receive that would actually turn our customers into loyal advocates. So I've got 3 ideas to share with you that maybe you can think about. There are things that I've learned along my 34 years that I recommend to my clients, things that I learned from being employees at really big organizations early in my career. And the first one is a concept called the mystery shop. Okay. The thing about a mystery shop is you pay someone outside of your organization to go through the purchasing process and the service process of your company so that you can get independent and regular feedback on how your company is performing to the end customer experience. It is so easy for us to get pigeonholed into thinking that our processes and our SOPs and the way we do things every single day is affecting the customer the way we think they are. Well, this is a way to get unbiased feedback from every touch point that's critical in your business on a continuous basis so you can follow up on your internal processes. I learned this first back in the days of Taco Bell, 4 times a month, 2 times a month, whatever it was. As a general manager, we would have people come in and buy food and go through the service experience and go through the drive-through experience and check our restrooms and check our lobbies and all of those things to gear us up to always be on the top of our service requirements. This type of feedback is invaluable, and I guarantee you, you'll get perspective from your customer's point of view. Some say to me, Darrell, well, I can get that from Google reviews or my Yelp reviews. I can get some of that. No. Misunderstand. When you get the review from Google or Yelp or all the places online, Trust Pilots and all of these things, you're getting the person who desired to go leave feedback. See, what I learned many, many years ago is that, and I'm going to give you the approximates, but 20% of people will leave openly their review, or openly, both good or bad, they'll leave their review online. But you're missing 80% of the feedback. And here's the part that threw me for a loop and really changed my perspective, because it was 20 something years ago. 20% will leave feedback because they're that type of person. 20% won't leave feedback even if they're happy, even if you ask, because they're not that type of person. The part that you're missing is the 60 in the middle. The 60% of consumers who will leave dissatisfied and never tell you, but they'll tell 10 people. The person who leaves satisfied in the 60, who will leave satisfied, they'll come back, but they may not ever leave a review and they may not ever tell anybody. You've got to get your eyes around that entire experience. Okay. Item number one is start to think about how you can mystery shop your own business. Okay. Number two, if you've ever lost a customer, one of the best things I've learned is to reach out and interview your lost customers, the people that stop coming, right? The people that stop paying, the people that cancel the contract. Don't be afraid to ask, what was it that happened that led to the breakdown that made them leave? It is a hard conversation. It is a tough pill to swallow, but I can think about our agency specifically over the last 13, 14 years. Some of these conversations I've had have been hurt. They've hurt me because our intention was never to have the breakdowns that we had or the letdown, or to leave them in the perception that we didn't care or that we weren't able to get the job done, because it just happens. But the only way you're going to know is if you ask the questions, right? You've got to be able to find out those blind spots that you can't see, but you have to understand it from their consumer perspective and their customer experience. From that, you can take the information, you can look at your systems, your SOPs, your standards, your policies, your values, and you can now improve that experience to prevent future customer loss. The third one is one that's been around for ages. You hear about it in major corporations, and I don't know if a lot of small and mid-sized companies do this very often, but it's something called the Net Promoter Score. This survey is so simple, and I recommend it quarterly to our clients, and it simply is a one-question survey. One, not 12, not 15. It's not 20 minutes on an interview. It's not a Google review. It's one simple question, and the question goes something like this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend our business to others? 9 or 10 is this person who is a promoter of your business, who is like, yeah, I'll refer you to others. Anyone under that, I think it's between 5 and 8, they're considered maybes. There's an actual real word for it, but anybody less than 5 is somebody called a detractor. It's a detractor. Obviously, you want to talk to the people that are less than 5, but I always say that it's really important to talk to that group that is between 5 and 8. They're not yet a 9 and 10. And the simple question and follow-up is, for those specifically that are 5 to 8, is what would it take to get you to a 9 or a 10? And you take that feedback and roll that in to your SOPs. You roll that into your customer experience. You roll that into your process. This is something you can do quarterly, you can do biannually, you can do it annually, whatever it is, and it looks like in your business. Of course, you have to have an email address for that particular customer. That's the best thing you can do. But listen, these strategies can help you identify the weak points in your business, the weak points in your service and your experience, and really address them before it costs you customers and business, sales and profits. And next thing you know, you find yourself laying staff off, right? The economy moves and does what it does. Inflation moves and does what it does. Prices of goods and services do what they do. We have economic booms and economic busts on a regular basis. They just happen. The cycles of geopolitical winds happen for everybody. What we can control, and you know how big I am about controlling the controllables, right? Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we don't get it wrong. Lord knows I'm guilty. I'm not preaching to you. I'm telling you what I've learned. I'm telling you what we still are working on today in our agency. Believe me when I tell you, we've lost clients that I'm like, why did they leave? What did we do wrong? And guess what? The only way you find out is you ask, and then you get intentional about getting better. You get intentional about the experience, like Chick-fil-A's My Pleasure. Okay. But today, we must take a real close look at shifting our mind so we can shift our results in our business, because we're in a technological hurricane, AI, cybersecurity. Speaking of which, I'm going to bring that up in just a second, but we cannot afford to have one bad experience with our customers. I know that sounds harsh. I know that seems like a lot of pressure, but I do believe today it's true. When our customer standards are high, they're one click away, one meal away, one visit away, one call away, one email away, one service experience away, one delay away from never coming back. And have you calculated what that can mean to your business? Look, we're all human. We all make mistakes. But I think what really truly matters is how we respond to these things. And how do we get prepared? You know, I always say that I don't want my customers to find out we made a mistake and tell us. I'd rather let them know we made a mistake and tell them and explain. I'd like us to be forward. One of our policies in our business is don't leave the customer guessing as to whether it worked or didn't work, right? If we tried something, it didn't work, let's tell them. Let's tell them up front that it might not work so we can get their buy-in. Let's be transparent. It's one of our core values in our company. But listen, sincerely, we must understand. We must be sincere about our desire for customer experience. We must be empathetic to helping our customers in the right way. Everything that we do stands on it. You know, here recently, and I'll finish with this, there's a very stark problematic example. And for those of you in the United States, you know about this. If you're one of my global audience, you may not know much about this. But listen, recently, there's a cybersecurity company in America called CrowdStrike. And they're a major cybersecurity company. And they experienced an outage on July 19th that apparently affected 8.5 million, approximately, based on some reports, 8.5 million computers worldwide, including major corporations, so much so that I was receiving some messages that the internet was down, like the internet was down. That was the feeling across the world. Planes were, I mean, the whole travel of airplane travel was grounded. It was horrific. If you were flying, I mean, I watched videos on TikTok and all this stuff. It was crazy. This outage has been estimated to cost $5 billion or more to the companies that were involved, that were affected. I got on one of the news channels on my device, and I saw that CrowdStrike on the 24th, I think, sent out an apology letter to their vendors and a $10 gift card. You heard me right. A $10 gift card. I was flabbergasted. I'm not involved. I wasn't affected. I don't know if I'm a vendor, if I'm one of the airlines, if I'm a service, if I'm a customer. I don't know who all got the $10 gift card, but you've potentially caused $5+ billion. Some companies apparently lost 500 million in the days that it happened, and you offered a $10 gift card. It's not surprising that their stock price on the 19th went from $343 a share down to $263 a share in one day. At the time of recording this right now, it was trading at $217 a share. And this has nothing to do with the lawsuits that they're facing. This is a prime example of a company not just failing to understand the gravity of their service failure, but then responding in what I think is an inadequate way. Don't let this be you. There's too much at stake. There's too much going on. Consumers have too many options today. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. At the time of recording this, we're in 2024. Customer service isn't just a department, in my opinion. Customer experience isn't a department. It's a business strategy. It is a sales strategy. It is a revenue strategy. And if you work in these departments, if you work on the front lines of customer service, customer experience, you are on the sales team. Let me be clear. And if you're an owner operator and you're not talking to your team like this, you're missing a profound opportunity. There's a difference between a one-time transaction and a lifelong customer. It's the difference between word of mouth and public criticism or the demise of your company if you get it wrong. I can think one time back to a restaurant that reached out to our agency, and their online reviews were very, very bad. For the area that they were populated in, they were hovering at an average of like 2.5 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5. In school, if we do the math, that's a 50%. That means 1 out of 2 people are leaving bad reviews. Now, we know from my earlier comments, that's the 20% who are willing to speak out loud about their experience. So what does that mean for the 60 in the middle and the 20 who would never say anything anyway? It doesn't matter if you own a restaurant, if you have an air conditioning company, if you have a if you're Chick-fil-A, or if you are an accountant or a lawyer or a roofing company, or it doesn't matter what you do. You're an e-commerce company, you're a SaaS firm. Today's landscape is extremely competitive. And I challenge you today to take a hard look at your customer experience. Mystery shop your business. Talk to those lost customers. Implement, if you haven't, a net promoter score so that you can be aware of how your customers are really experiencing your business. And most importantly, as we learned, I think, from the brief example from Chick-fil-A and many, many others that we just don't have time to talk about today, is we got to cultivate a culture where every person on our team understands that each interaction is an opportunity to win a customer for life. And why would they be so inclined to buy into that? It's because they need that company. They need your company to succeed, not just for the owner, not just for the shareholders, not just for the customers, but for their career and livelihood. And when you package it all together like that, you can not only attract the right people to your team, if those on your team are not willing to raise the standard, not willing to raise the bar, but you can build a sustainable business that withstands all of the economic winds and all of the turbulence that we face in small and mid-sized companies. And if you're a big company, obviously, I don't know what it's going to look like for CrowdStrike, but it's a big issue, right? Most of us won't face something like that where we have a catastrophic failure that costs $5 billion. But we do have an obligation to take every single interaction with our clients seriously. My company, my team, we talk about this regularly. We talk about closing loops. We talk about minimizing the mental concern or stress that they could have. We talk about the intangible things that the customer could be thinking, even if we did the right thing, right? There are so many things that we'll talk about maybe in a future episode, but today I just wanted to talk to you and remind you that each and every interaction with your customer, with your client, could be one that makes them become a customer for life, or it could make them sunset their relationship with you without you even knowing it. So my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was on my mind for weeks. I had to bring my own personal experiences, and because it happened so much, I was thinking, I think this is a good one to share. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd hope you would consider subscribing, hitting the follow button wherever you're listening to this show. And if you're on Apple, please leave us a rating and review. It really does help us improve the show, and it helps it reach more people just like you. Until next time, you're only one shift away, as I always say, from the breakthrough you're looking for. And maybe that shift happened today. Take care. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.